The pen tool can seem a bit intimidating and abstract if you're new to it, and as a result, the best way to really learn it is just start experimenting with it and see how it's used in practice. So I had this sketch I did in Photoshop of a hedgehog. I saved it as a TIFF, I've opened it in Illustrator, and we're just going to walk through how I would go about making this image. So the first thing I'm going to do after I open it is select this image layer, and I'm going to click the options and select template, which will just make the image easier to trace. As you can see, I made it lighter, and you can actually toggle it on and off so we can preview what our work will look like as we go. I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to create a new layer over the template, and I'm just going to call this layer Earth. I'm going to change the path color just so it's easier for you to see. And right now we're just going to be focusing on making the paths. Any color, strokes, any of that is just really incidental right now. It's really all about just making the paths. So we're going to start right now. We're just going to click P, and I'm going to just start making the line right here that forms the head, and I'm just going to try to do it as roughly as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, because what we're going to do mostly is just edit that shape after it's created. So I'm just going to click here to make a point, click and drag to make a curve. And as you can see, it's filling this color in with the fill color right here. And as I said, that's incidental. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Command or Control Y, and that's going to switch us to outline mode so we only see the path. And I'm going to continue on. And there I've got my basic head shape. And so I'm going to select the direct selection tool right here by either selecting it with the tool or clicking A, which is the shortcut. And now I can select individual anchor points and modify them. I can click and drag to move them. I can pull the handles and change the appearance of the curve. I can make them shorter or longer and reposition them as I wish. And you may want to make more points, you may want to delete them as you go. The more you work with it, you'll see, you get a general idea of what you're going to need and where is the best place to put them. And like right here, I have a corner anchor point, and as you can see, it's not quite matching up with this outline. So I'm actually going to select it, my Shift C, which is the Convert Anchor Point tool. I'm going to make this a smooth anchor point to kind of modify that. And now this part looks better, but this is not fitting. So I'm going to go back to A, the direct selection tool, and I'm going to select this handle, which modifies only that side of the path. I'm going to pull this side of the handle back in, and it makes the curve a little less extreme, and now it's lining up better. Just do a few minor tweaks right here. You can try twisting these handles, or you can even completely move them. So that looks good, and I want to see what this would look like when it's finished. So I'm going to click Control Y again, and that brings my color back, but you'll still see the path outline. So if I click A and just click somewhere outside of that path, it'll hide it and you just have the shape. And now I want to see what it looks like without the sketch. So I'm going to toggle the sketch off. And now we can just see the shape. And overall it's looking pretty good. If I was trying to make this perfect, I would probably do a little more changes. But right now we're just trying to have a basic idea of how to use the pen tool. Now I'm going to just toggle my sketch back on. I'm going to click Command Y. We're going to go back into outline mode, and we're going to continue. So I want to make his little nose right here, and when I sketched it out, I didn't make a perfect circle or even an oval. It's kind of a teardrop shape. But that doesn't really matter, because in Illustrator we can use shape tools to do that for us. So I'm going to select the ellipse tool, which I can do by just clicking the L or selecting it here. And if I click and drag, it'll just make a circle for me, like so. And if I select the selection tool, which shortcut for that is V, I can grab it and I can reposition it. And if I wanted to, I can even change the size and skew it a little bit. but I don't want to do that right now, so I'm just going to leave that there. So that'll be his nose. And we'll do the same thing for his eye right here. Give him a little eye. And now I'm going to make his ear. So I'm going to select P, and I'm going to click here to make a corner anchor point. I'm going to click and drag for the curve, and click again. And if you notice, it doesn't quite curve as much as I want it to. And one of the reasons for that is because the 2 points at the end are corner anchor points and not smooth anchor points. And so I'm going to convert those real quick, and I can do that using the Convert Anchor Point tool, but I can also use these options at the top just because they're a little bit faster. So I'm going to select the Direct Selection tool, which is A. I'm going to click this point, and you can tell it's selected because it's filled in. And then I'm going to click right here where you see the Convert options. And one is a corner and one is a curve. So I'm going to click the curve, which converts to a smooth anchor point and just automatically adds these handles right here. So with the selection tool, direct selection tool, I'm just going to take those handles and I'm going to twist them a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing right here. And I don't really like the way this looks. I think it looked better before. So what I can do is I can just go back to the top right here and I can click the corner anchor point and it's going to take those handles away. And I think this looks a little better. I might just shift this a bit. Okay. Now we're going to zoom out and we're going to work on his body. So we're going to select the pen tool again. And this is going to be just straight line segments, as you can see, because we want to make his spikes. So if you notice when I get close to this path, you'll see that the pen tool has a little slash next to it, and that indicates that if I click right here, it's going to reactivate this path, and if I click, it's going to continue as one path. Now I don't want to do that right now because I actually want his body to be a different color later, and if I put this as one path, that's not going to be possible. So I'm going to Control Z, I'm going to use the Direct Selection tool and deselect that path. And click P again. And if you notice when I'm just holding the pen tool anywhere there's not a path, it's going to have an X beside the cursor, and that's just showing that it's ready to create a new anchor point. So I'm going to click a little lower right here. As you can see, it starts making the slash again. So I'm going to click here and click again just to make these corner anchor points for his spikes. I'm just going to follow these as best I can. Because when I drew it, as you can see, I can't draw perfectly straight lines always. But using the pen tool, we can. We're not going to have any of these inconsistencies or kind of these wobbly lines. And as you can see right here, I accidentally clicked and dragged ever so slightly that if I zoom in right here, you can actually see a tiny handle. So with the Direct Selection tool, I'm going to select that anchor point. I'm going to do Convert, and it's going to get rid of those handles. And I'm just going to finish up his body a little bit real quick, making his spikes. And then when we get to the end, you'll see a circle, and that shows that you're completing your path. So now I'm just going to make one little last minute change before we get into color. And one thing that I'm a little OCD about is I don't like that this line right here is not perfectly straight. You can kind of see that with these little staggered steps if you look very closely at this path right here. And you can make straight lines using the pen tool as you go by if you click a point, and before you click the next point you actually hold down Shift and you click again, and it'll give you a straight line. But I didn't do that as I was working. So one way to do that, which I find to be really simple, is to use the Direct Selection tool, click this anchor point, hold down Shift, click the next anchor point, and that just allows me to select two anchor points at the same time, as you can see, because they're both filled in. And then at the top we have these align tools, where you can access them through your align menu. And you'll see one right here that says vertical align bottom, or you can alternatively do vertical align top. It really doesn't matter, because all it's going to do is vertically align these 2 points so that they're on the same x-axis. So I'm going to select those 2 points, and then I'm going to select vertical align bottom. And what that did is it moved this left anchor point up, actually. And now they're on the same plane. But I wish this line were a little lower. So I still have these 2 anchor points selected. And that means this path segment between those 2 points is selected. So with those selected, I can use the direct selection tool and grab the path itself, and it will move the entire path without distorting it. So the path is still straight, and as you can see, these segments are what are actually edited. And I'm fine with that, and I think that looks better.